Hello, we are here with Daniel MacKenzie, and I would like to start this interview asking him something about his life, how he went, why you moved to the United States, and what was your work in the United States?
Well, actually, I was born in California, and I lived there until I was 12 years old. My mother's Salvadorian, so she brought us down here to El Salvador, and I studied here in the 70s. I went to a bilingual school here, but then I went back to the United States in 1976 because of the situation. The war was starting,
Mhm.
at the time that I left, it was I was trying to think. It was a military colonel by the name of Arturo Armando Molina.
Yes.
That was the president at the time, and I think the guerrillas were starting, and there was a lot of murders, and so I decided to leave, and I went back in 1976. I lived with my dad, and I went to college there for 2 years. I went to a community college in Pleasant Hill, California, and I got my Associate of Arts in General Education. But then after that, I didn't continue because I started to work. I worked in San Francisco, and I started with an insurance company that actually my stepmother was working in. It was called California State Auto Association. They were over there on Van Ness Avenue in San Francisco, very close to the Civic Center. So I worked there for about 2 years. I was working in the data processing department. But I at that time, I didn't think I was really making a lot of money back then because San Francisco was kind of expensive. So I lucked out. I applied to the telephone company, which was at that time, that was in 1984, Pacific Bell.
Mhm.
I remember taking the typing test, and the lady that gave me the interview in the human resources department, she was Salvadorian.
Oh, that was nice.
So I told her my mother was from El Salvador and I lived down there. So she gave me the job.
Oh, that's nice.
That was pretty good. So actually, I started, and it was in the summer of 84, and I worked for the legal department. There were attorneys there. That was at 140 New Montgomery Street. That's where all the attorneys for the phone company were. So that was kind of nice. I mean,
And what was your duties there? What you have to do there?
I was a staff clerk. So I had to do a lot of word processing. They taught me word processing, sent me to school. And then we had to do a lot of those documents for Judge Harold Green. And I think he was over in Washington. At that time, the phone company had split up into 7 what they called the baby bells, or bell operating companies. It wasn't Pacific Telephone anymore. They changed the name to Pacific Bell. So a lot of his decisions, came from he was a judge, a federal judge, and so he was the one that was regulating what businesses that the phone company could get into and which ones they couldn't. So those were major decisions, and I had to actually distribute those to the executives. They were up on the top floor. I remember the president and CEO. I remember there was the chief executive officer. I forget what his name was at that time, but boy, he sure had a plush office. I don't know how many millions he was making at that time. That was back in 84. And I forget what his name was. I know that the president was named Ted Sanger. So I would always have to distribute those things to their offices. So I worked there. Was probably for a year, and then there was a certain section of attorneys. They were marketing attorneys, so they split off from that group, and then we ended up going to different areas in San Francisco. I remember we went to 110 Sansom Street, worked there for a couple of months, and then they got some really plush offices, and it was actually at 1 Montgomery, which was it was called the West Tower, and it's still there. Absolutely, what a beautiful place! It had an atrium and very, very nice. If you take a look at the internet, I mean, I really enjoyed working there. We were on the third floor, but then since they were building that new administrative center in San Ramon, which is at East Bay, then I was forced to transfer over there, and that was the largest building practically in the United States. It was the largest building west of the Mississippi. It had almost 2 million square feet. Can you imagine? 2
Wow,
million.
it's big. Yeah.
There was 7,500 employees, 7,500 in that building.
Mm-hmm.
And there were the 4 wings. There was a north wing, south wing, west wing, east wing. It had a lake, I mean, and it looks like the water from the lake was the one that actually did formed the ice cubes for the air conditioning, for that building.
Uh-huh.
And when I got there, they had robots that delivered the mail.
Wow, that was
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, it was really well advanced. That was in 1980. Let's see, that was 86 when I started there, and they already had robots.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so actually,
That was very interesting to have
yeah,
that
it was a
advanced
wonderful
technology
build.
for the time.
Yeah, for that time, it was really well advanced, and it was so advanced that they had these curtains along the windows, Venetian curtains,
Uh-huh.
and when the sunlight measured, when they measured the sunlight, the windows, and they got a lot of sunlight, there was some kind of a computer that actually told the curtains actually to close when there was a lot of sun coming through the window.
Wow,
That was
that's very
pretty well
great.
advanced. Yeah, that was really well
Yeah.
advanced back
We
then.
don't have that here in El Salvador in these days.
No, not even. Well, they don't even have that in a lot of buildings now. They just had it in
Uh-huh.
that particular building. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I mean, the only problem was that there was too many people in there.
Mhm.
And you sure did a lot of walking. You had a lot of walking at that time. So I worked at the legal department. Let's see,
Mhm.
maybe was probably a total of 3 years, I guess. And then I transferred over to marketing. And then I
Mhm.
worked for a marketing group. It was called the Profitability Information Group, and they did what they call those return on investment.
Mhm.
Um, they were financial analysts, that they would actually measure the finance of the different departments within the company throughout the state,
Mhm.
and so I would have to work on those profitability reports, and also I ran the newsletter. At that time in '84, that's when the Macintosh came out. So I was
Uh-huh.
responsible for the newsletter. They had a newsletter that went out to the company, you know,
Wow.
and that was probably another 2 years. And then they folded, and then I ended up working for a director like yourself. He was the director of profitability information.
Mhm.
No, I'm sorry, it was large business and industry assessment.
Oh.
And they were about 10 marketing managers, so I worked for them. And then I said, well, I think I had enough of San Ramon, and it was getting to be expensive to live there.
Mhm.
So I transferred over to Sacramento, the capital, and I worked at the Hispanic Center. I was working in the call center for the phone
Oh,
company.
but it was the same. It was the same company then. So you
Yeah,
were
it was the
working in
same
the same
company.
company
Yeah,
all those years.
I always worked for the same company, and then so I worked for another 10 years, in that call center in Spanish, taking
Uh-huh.
calls about billing, and orders. And that was probably another 7 or 8 years. And then I went to school at night and I studied electronics. And I
Mhm.
said, well, I want to become a technician with the company. So I even made even more money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I got a job as a communications technician. They built a new network operations center across the street. It sort of looked like the White House, but in miniature.
Uh-huh.
And that was on, I think that was 3601 Kingsway, if I can remember correctly. So I was there since the year 2000. So I worked another 10 years there till 2010, and I
Mhm.
decided to call it quits because they were closing the building. They were actually closing the job. So
Mhm.
they were going to ship us to Georgia, and I decided not to go because my dad was kind of old.
Oh.
So I retired after 30. So it was after I retired after 30 years. you
Oh,
know.
you work a lot. You really work a lot of time there, right?
Yeah, it was yeah, close to 30 years. I would have really wanted to continue,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I came here to take care of my mom, but I see that this country, El Salvador is a nice country, but the problem is very chaotic. It
Yeah.
really never has changed, it's
Yes.
same thing. Nobody obeys the laws, I mean, try to walk down the street, you don't know if you're going to get run over by a car or run over by a
You,
motorcycle.
yeah, you're right. You're right. That's a problem. And then when you came here to stay here in El Salvador to take care of your mother, you decide to continue studying.
Not right away. I forget that why how did I know about this? I don't really know. I think I just looked it up at the university's webpage and saw that
Mm-hmm.
you could study online. So I looked at the YouTube video and I said, oh, that would be kind of interesting. I don't have much to do, so I mean,
Uh-huh.
so I started. I forget what year I started though. Um, the first year I was there, I dropped out because they were asking what they were asking for. Uh, so sociology. They wanted us to go into a school
Oh,
and
yes.
interview a principal and students and all kinds of things. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, how was I going to do it? I mean, it's Easter recess and everything's closed, so I couldn't do it. You
Yeah.
know. So and then the other one was for psychology, and they wanted us to interview a child. I said, well, I don't have any children. I don't know of any children. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
interview a child.
Uh-huh.
So I decided to drop out. It really didn't work for me. But then when the COVID, then I took one class. I took what was the one that you tried to write a thesis?
Uh-huh.
What was that called? Um, it was the first semester. Do you remember?
Yes, the first semester.
Was it Modono? What was the name of that class where you did a lot of writing? Like it was like a
Yes,
writing a thesis.
I know what you mean, but I don't remember the
Yeah,
name.
I don't remember the name either. So I only
Investigations,
took
I think.
yeah, I only took that one class, but then the COVID situation
Mhm,
started here, and so we couldn't go to the university anymore. So
mhm,
everything was online. So I just started with that one class, and then
mm,
and then I went back again to take the classes that I was supposed to, and
mhm.
and it worked out better because you didn't really have to go out and interview anybody because of the COVID thing, you know.
You're right.
So that worked out real well, what I mean.
So you started the university in the face-to-face
Well, no, it
model.
wasn't exactly face to face. I mean, it was online, but you had to go there on the weekends to meet with the
Oh,
tutor. I don't know
uh-huh.
if you were there at the time, I don't know if you
No.
started. Yeah, but we did. I mean, it was online, but
Uh-huh.
but the tutors were at the university on the weekend, you know. And
Uh-huh.
the really interesting thing was that the one class that I took that I went all the way through,
Mhm,
the people were older. They weren't, they were some young gals, maybe they were 18 or 19,
mhm,
maybe two or three, but most of them were teachers and they were like in their 40s, 50s, and they were going to school and they were coming from all kinds of different areas of El Salvador, not San Salvador. That was kind of interesting, you know.
mhm.
So, and she was a really good teacher. I really liked her. I forget what, did you have her, Flor de Garcia?
No,
Licenciada
no,
Flor de Garcia. Yeah, she was really,
no.
really good. I really liked her a lot, so, yeah, so that actually, that's how I started. And then I started taking the other classes that I missed, and I
Mhm.
did well on those. There was one on philosophy, sociology, and what was the other one? Oh, I guess was psychology. I think
Psychology,
psychology was with the psychology of the child.
the child, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of interesting. But
Yeah,
it
that
seems to
was
me that
good.
this semester is a lot tougher than that semester.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
it
But
seems
I
to me
think
it's
it's
a
better. It's better now that we have to stay just online, right? That we don't have to go to any other places to do that.
well, you'd have to go to well, I don't know. Well, you'd have to go to the university, the central university.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is like on the weekends, the bathrooms aren't open.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't remember the maybe the only bathrooms that I could find was probably the one in the, over there where the chemistry department was. But I
Wow.
think on Sundays, they weren't
Uh-huh.
open. So, you know, I had to, you know, if I had to use the jungle as a bathroom, there's a jungle there.
And that's a problem. That's a real problem.
That was a big problem, you know.
Yeah.
So, but
And
anyway, it was solved with the COVID thing, so I don't have to worry about it anymore, you know.
yeah. And do you have do you have plans to come back to United States?
You know, I really don't know. I'm sort of stuck here, you know. But my
Mm-hmm.
mother passed away, and you know, I've got part of the house, you know. I mean, my mother divided in two, and I'm sort of fighting with the sister over here. She's kind of a, what do they call it? Bipolar,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And right away, she's supposed to give me a month to take everything out of that area where my mother is, right? She's only
Uh-huh.
given me a week.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So
so
you're
I
busy
gotta
these
move all
days.
the, so I have to move all the furniture, and she wants to build the wall right away. I don't know why, why?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand, you know. But anyway,
But
yeah.
but are you planning to work here, for example? Or
Well, if I could find something, you know, I mean, after I graduate, you know, or,
Mhm.
you know, probably. But the thing is, I'm already retired, so you know, I'm not really. It's not an urgency for me to go back to work.
Okay.
I would probably just maybe teach a class or something like that, maybe for an hour or so. You know, I'd like to study translations like yourself. That would be kind of interesting. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a 2-year program. I looked it up on the internet.
Yes, and it's nice because at the end you can get if you have chance, you can get a lot of money doing that work.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
That
Well,
was
that'd be
very
great. Yeah, I don't know. If we should actually finish now.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I said it's been great that you've been interviewing me.
Yeah.
And if I can help you in any way, with your article, just let me know.
Yes, I'm gonna write an article of you and how you know talking about the work that you have in the United States and why you come back to El Salvador and why and how you started to study this career. So I appreciate very much your time, Daniel, and I'm gonna show you the article at the end.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Araceli.
Okay,
It's been
thank you.
wonderful. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Bye bye now.
bye now.